Hi, my name is Erena Pranandita, and I am currently studying in Kristen Wacana University. I'm an international student of management and business, and I'm doing research on the potential implementation of Holacracy in Indonesian company as an agile organization structure with my supervisor, Ma'am Lily and Mr. Ranjo. So, in the research background, I am talking about how the business environment constantly changes and crises emerge from those changes. Like, for example, when the COVID-19 happened and the pandemic happened, it changes everything and it shows us how easily um, the external environment affecting companies and businesses. And as a result, there are so many companies and businesses that failed or that forced to close because they cannot really respond to the crisis that's happening or the changes that are happening. So it shows us that our way of doing business um, or the company in general is not really adaptive or flexible in giving response to changes and crisis. Um, which brings us to the topic of agility. So, being an agile organization means being an organization that can respond to changes or crisis, um, and being adaptable and being flexible in doing their business. And in my research phenomenon, I'm talking about holacracy as a new organizational design that promises agility and flexibility by implementing a self-management system in the organization that will encourage workers to be more responsible and aware of their contribution to the organization. Um, so so because companies are not really agile yet, there are some new organizational design that people are trying to reinforce to companies because for centuries we have only familiar with hierarchical structure or a structure that have complexity in their bureaucratic um, and so people start asking the question of is this kind of organizational design really effective enough um, and but the problem is um, with a new organizational design, especially in Indonesian as the place of the context. There will be a class of cultures between Holacracy culture and Indonesian working culture, because Holacracy came from the United States. It came from a very Western country, while Indonesia, as an Asian country, have a different approach in doing their business. They have different culture. For example, uh, people in the United States much more comfortable in giving a direct feedback, while as Indonesia as working. I'm sorry. While as Indonesia as an Asian country, they are usually prefer to be indirect when they are giving a feedback, and that is just a very small example of how the cultures can be really different. And when implementing a new organizational design in companies, that might be happen. So in the research question, the question is really asking about, is it possible for Indonesian based company to implement holacracy? And if the answer is yes, what are the elements that company needs to implement holacracy as a new organizational design? To again, the aim of implementing holacracy as a new organizational design is to make company or to help company to be more agile in responding to crisis and um, changes that constantly happen in the business environment. Um, and the purpose of the research is to discover the potential implementation of holacracy in the cultural context. In the literature review, I'm talking about three main things. The first one is organizational culture, the second is holacracy, and the third one is agility. So, in the organizational culture, the biggest question that I'm really trying to asking myself is why why is it has to be or to focus on organizational culture when it came when it when I'm trying to talk about the implementation of holacracy as an organizational design. Well, but first we have to talk about what is culture first. So culture is a common way of thinking, and it's a common way of people to have to behaving, or that is a common norms basically. Culture is a common norms that a community believe. Well, um, changes in organizational design going it will also change the common way of thinking. It's going to change the leadership. It's going to change the norms that usually happen in the organization or in the working environment as general. So when that's changing, the culture of the company also needs to also going to change, because yeah, because culture is the common norms that people believe, or um, people see it as a common thing. So organizational culture and organizational design really related to towards each other. When the organizational design change over time, the culture also going to change, because well, that's the way it is. And then in the second thing, I'm talking about holacracy itself. So holacracy, as I talked about earlier, is a new organizational design, and they are a self-managed organization, which basically means there will be no hierarchy. There will be no managers or supervisors. Um, People are doing roles instead of being told of what they are should be doing. So the decisions in a holacratic organization are made based on consent and should result in action that allows for quick feedback rather than detailed cost analysis. Basically, holacracy trying to simplify the communication flow by eliminating the complexity of hierarchy structure. So when that kind of changes, that kind of new organizational design, effectively going to also change the organizational culture that we are familiar with, because usually we have managers to tell us what we have to do, and then we don't have any more managers, and then usually we are much more we're not flexible enough when it comes to decision making. Only managers or supervisor or seniors that can make decision making, but in holacratic organization everybody can make a decision making. Again, it's based on consensus rather than a consensus. And then in the agility, I'm talking about how bureaucratic organization fail to reflect the agility characteristics since it is not innovative and not flexible in taking risk and cannot initiate the change. Um, so again, the biggest aim to implementing holacracy is to help organization to be more agile, um, and it says here, Hemelin Zanimin, that bureaucratic organization are failing to reflect an agility characteristic. Well, in holacracy, because of the simplification of the structure and simplification of the communication model, it should be more agile, more innovative and flexible um, when it's comes to governing the organization. So everything here are really connected to each other in the literature review. In the methodology unit, um, I'm I'm talking about how I'm going to do my research. So I will for the observation unit, I will do an interview. And the participant for the observation unit are the COO of the company, the employee, and the organization expert. In the data and data collection, the primary data will be collected through an in depth interview because it can collect a large portion of information about the behavior, the attitude, and perception of the interviewees. And I will also do a triangulation source with entails double checking the information gathered through the informants who are the COO, employee, and organization expert. And then in the data analysis, the recorded interviews will be translated, transcribed, and analyzed by carefully reviewing the collected data to identify the main themes. So because this is a conceptual study, I only going to talk about the hypothesis of this research, and the expected outcome of this study is to provide an understanding on what are the key elements in how we can implement the holacracy culture in the Indonesian working culture. So um, I I have a hypothesis that actually holacracy is applicable in Indonesia, even though there will be some struggles in changing the culture or the behavior or the mindset of people about or a new organizational design and about how they should managing themselves in organization. However, it is still have a possibility to be implemented, and that's why I will also expect to provide an understanding on what are the key elements in how we implement holacracy. And that's all from me. Thank you very much. Please leave a comments, and you can approach me if you want to talk about this more in my Instagram or in my LinkedIn. Thank you so much.